everyone, I'm Laurie and I'm going to be talking to you about the analysis for the third movement of Haydn Symphony No. 104 in D major. You'll need a score if you want to follow along, but I'm going to start with a point on structure. So this movement is a minuet and trio, which was a conventional form for third movements in the classical period. And this movement is in ternary form, where section A is bars 1 to 52, which is the minuet. Section B is 53 to 104, the trio, and section A returns when we have the da capo right at the end, which means you go back to the start of the minuet and play all the way through to bar 52. The other aspects of structure in this movement are that the two parts are in their own structures. So the minuet is rounded binary form, where section A is bars 1 to 16, B is 17 to 26, B2 is 27 to 34, and the return of A is 35 to 44. After that we have 2 bars of silence, and that's followed by a 2-bar link passage to the trio. So the trio is in ternary form, where section A is 53 to 64, section B is 65 to 78, and the return of A is the pickup in bar 78 to 104. I thought the fact the movement has 104 bars could be a joke on Haydn's part due to the symphony being Symphony No. 104. A couple of other points on structure. Bars 9 to 16 are almost an exact repeat of bars 1 to 8, but Haydn writes them out due to having a different orchestration, which is lighter. And I'll talk about instrumentation in a moment. Bars 87 beat 2 to 88 beat 2 are complete silence. I thought the different moments where Haydn uses silence could be due to the reverberations that would be produced and affect the sound in the King's Theatre in London, where the piece was originally performed. Also, you should note that the piece is titled the London Symphony. Another structure point is the da capo at the end shows the influence of operatic music on the symphony, which came from the da capo aria, and that was around about the same time as the symphony was starting to develop. Moving on to orchestration and starting with the minuet, you've got like a standard classical instrumentation, so flutes, oboes, clarinets, but they're in A rather than B flat because the A is the dominant of D, which is our home key, and all the transposing instruments, it's just easier to play in the key of D major with these ones. Then we've got bassoons, French horns in D, trumpets in D, timpani in D and A because you couldn't change the pitch and it was more practical to have these ones, and a traditional string quartet. Haydn was very good at writing for a string quartet, and he did it in a lot of his music. However, he was very bad at writing for the clarinet, and he didn't know how to write for it effectively or how it really worked, so I think maybe he just included it because it was becoming popular at the time. So, some more points on instrumentation in the minuet. For the first 8 bars, the flutes and first oboe double the first violins and the viola. Then at bars 9 to 16, the trumpet, clarinet, bassoons and timpani drop out, which creates thinner orchestration and texture, and they return at bar 17. We start to have players playing solo rather than a two. For example, the bassoon at bar 28 and the flute at 31. That makes the texture thinner as well. In bar 47, at the link passage, we have a big trill, but the clarinets, horns, trumpets and timpani drop out again, returning in bar 49 for the close of the minuet, which later becomes the end of the symphony, the end of the movement, after the minuet is played again. So going on with instrumentation for the trio, it's a lot less this time. We've got the oboes, bassoon and string quartet, so the timpani, horns and trumpets are restricted by the key of the trio, so they don't play at all. But from the pickup to bar 55, the only instruments playing are solo oboe and first violin. They play in unison, and this continues until bar 59 when the oboe drops out for 6 bars. The bassoon is silent until bar 58, and from here to bar 79 it plays solo. The string quartet accompaniment begins in bar 55. From bars 76 to 80 there are rests in the viola, second violin and bass parts at various different points, which creates a less full texture because there are gaps in the music. So the flute joins in at bar 84, and at this point the texture is thicker due to the string quartet and oboe playing. The bassoon drops out after the first beat of 84. In bar 87, the flute drops out again, and at 91 we're left with the first oboe and string quartet. This becomes more sparse at bar 95, where we only have the violins and oboes playing. Then at bar 97, the solo flute and rest of the string quartet rejoin, followed by the solo bassoon at bar 99. This is the fullest extent of texture in the trio, and this shows quite a textural contrast between the minuet and trio, just due to Haydn's use of instrumentation and orchestration. Next I'm going to talk about harmony and tonality. So the symphony is in D major overall, and I'm going to start with the minuet. So we begin in the tonic, and throughout the 16 bars of section A, Haydn doesn't modulate, which is unconventional for rounded binary form. But that means that bar 17, he quickly modulates into B major, which is the relative minor of D major. This is indicated by the use of A sharps. Bars 19 to 20, we have a perfect cadence in B minor, which establishes the key a bit more. At bar 25, we ended up in the dominant key, which is A major, after a backward circle of fifths at bar 23, which briefly goes through E major. Then at bar 35, we move back into the tonic of D major after an A pedal, which can act as either a tonic pedal in A major or dominant preparation towards D major. Then there's a perfect cadence into G major at bar 42, but the minuet finishes with a perfect cadence in D major, and this is important because when the symphony ends after the second run of the minuet, we want to be in D. Then tonality for the trio. It provides a conventional contrast in tonality to the minuet, because we begin in B flat major, which is a remote key in relation to D major. However, it is the flattened submedian of the home key. Harmony point as to how Haydn modulates into the trio. He keeps the D from before, but makes it the third of the B flat chord, and this is called a tertiary modulation. So the new tonic is established further at bar 55 when we get a full B flat chord. Section B, at bar 65, we're in C minor, which is the dominant minor of the dominant of B flat, indicated through A flat accidentals. Later on, at bar 70, the F sharps and E naturals show a brief visit into G minor. At bar 73, there's a transitory modulation, which is a brief visit to C minor. And then finally, the F major chord in the F major chord in bar 78 indicates a return to B flat major. And the final chord in the trio is an A chord, and I'll talk about this a bit later. So now moving on to harmony. In bar 1 there's a rising tonic triad figure, and this returns a few times throughout. Bars 1 to 13 there's a tonic pedal, D. Then bar 2, beat 3, there's a diminished chord, which shows an example of Haydn's use of chromatic harmony. Then bar 78, we have a perfect cadence, which prepares us for the consequent phrase, which is just the almost repeat that I talked about earlier. The B flats in bars 30 and 32 create a sense of minor tonality because we're already in A major, and that's not in the key signature of A major. Then bar 26, we have a Neapolitan sixth chord, which is another example of chromatic harmony. Bar 30, the tonic pedal, along with seventh chords, prepares us for the return of the tonic in section A at bar 35, where the D tonality comes back. Then bar 44, the flute plays an interval of a compound major third, which is quite a large jump. Bar 84, the flute plays a descending chromatic scale at the same time as the first oboe plays an ascending sequence, so there's a bit of contrary motion and chromaticism. There's a tonic pedal of B flat again at bars 95 to 99. 95 to 100, we've got a rising chromatic scale and a rising chromatic scale in the second note of a two-note motif, which just develops a bit more. Then 98 to 99 is a Phrygian cadence, which means we're left on the dominant, and that's true because we're left on an A chord of the tonic key of D major. Then bars 100 to 103, we have a dominant pedal, which leads us into the final A chord, creating a perfect cadence in D major when we go back to the minuet, because that starts in D. Now I'm going to talk about rhythm and meter, and this will be my final section. So the movement is in 3/4, which is conventional. It's anacrusic, which makes sense because it's a dance. So other points. We've got syncopated accents, which can throw the listener off because it creates a sense of ambiguity in the key signature, the time signature, because the wrong beats are being emphasized. Then at bar 7, the timpani have some measured semiquavers, which create a drum roll effect. Also, the use of trills is a feature that came from the Baroque period, just before the classical period. Bars 20 to 22 are hemiolic due to the use of 2 against 3 in 3/4 time. The accompaniment is fairly static at bar 35, which makes the moving parts easier to hear. And that is it. Thank you for watching.